So you want to have the best pal in Palworld, but are you ready to do what it takes? Are you ready to spend days creating a selection of immaculate 100 IV combat machines? I see that you are, but you are worried that you'll spend all that time for nothing as they'll be quickly outclassed by better pals with better passive abilities later on. That's valid and it's true, but there is a way to make sure you have the best pals in time for every stage of the game. Here's how. First, you're gonna want to catch everything at the start of the game. Craft hundreds of blue and green spheres and catch all you can find. There is a setting that allows you to increase pal appearance rate that you can use just to make the process quicker, but it's not necessary. The important part is that you have hundreds of pals in your pal box by the time you get to the glasses technology. Make sure not to condense or butcher them. Oi, if your pal box is full, just transfer them to this new dimensional pal storage. Catching everything will also make you level up very quickly. Once you get the IV glasses, transfer all your pals into the dimensional storage and go through all of them looking for those that have at least one 100% stat, preferably without any passive abilities, and transfer them back into Palbox. If you don't have any without passive skills, that's fine, but don't pick any that have more than one skill, because the more unwanted skills your pals have, the harder it is to breed them out. I have also found it impossible to make a pal without any passives if one of them already has any, so if you do have two Hundo pals without any passives, pick them as the best candidates for breeding. I don't recommend you focusing on yellow abilities at all if you are planning to breed the perfect pal, because those can be implanted in a surgery table later. So if you have any desirable rainbow abilities, throw them into your pal box for future breeding too, but don't take any of the yellows. Now, before you start breeding, catch a greentail and make a saddle for it. You'll find the greentail here. This will give you a 50% chance to have a second egg when greentail is in your party, and it dramatically increases the odds of getting the IVs you're looking for, because the second egg has the IVs rerolled, while the abilities stay the same. Also, while breeding, you'll sometimes get mutant eggs with extremely good pals, and it's nice to have double of those. Now, what you'll want to do is take two pals with complementary IVs, for example one with 100 health and the other with 100 attack, and breed them until you get one with both. Then, breed it with the third that has 100 defense. It will take some time to breed them, and if you're serious about having the absolute best pals, you must lower the time it takes for your eggs to hatch in the server settings, because otherwise you'll spend weeks and months waiting. Now, once you get a perfect 100 IV pal, start breeding it with the desired rainbow passives. If you don't have any pals that have only that one rainbow passive exclusively, breed it out with another pal of the same species and eventually you'll get it, though it will take time. I'm saying the same species because you generally want to try and have the highest tier pals at your disposal, as it might be hard for you to breed an Astegon out of Chikipi. You want to have as few passive skills on your pals as possible to maximize the chance the right ones are passed on, so when attempting to breed out the rainbow, pair it with a pal that doesn't have any abilities at all. Here is the list of rainbow passives that you can find in the wild and get during breeding. At this stage, don't worry if you're getting Vampiric on a Mozzarina that you don't intend to use in combat. She is just a stepping stone for better, more powerful pals. Eventually, you will have a selection of 100% pals with rainbow abilities, but the incest has to stop if you want to have higher tier pals. If we check the breeding calculator, you will see there are tiers to pals, and you generally can't step out of them unless you breed with rarer pals. You probably already know that each pal has a breeding power number, and the child is determined by the sum of parents' numbers divided by 2. So there's 3 ways to get rarer pals. One is to catch them, but catching higher tier pals is generally harder and it takes a while to find one without any passives. Another way is to get egg mutations, but those are random and rare and generally come with 4 passives. And finally, my preferred method is to make variants of the pals you already have, because those variants don't follow the same formula and you can get rarer pals from combining 2 basic ones. Breeding Noct, Christ, Lux, and other variants is a great way to get access to higher tier pals. For example, Chillet is considered common, but Chillet Ignis is already rare. At the price of 1 Arsox, you can make someone who gives you early access to Snuglu, Valentail, Turticle, Dazemu, Elgrove, Smokey, and other pals that can only be found in more advanced areas. In the breeding process, you will likely have made at least some pals that you're happy with, Hundos that you like and that have at least some rainbow abilities. use them and level them up, and you can switch their less than ideal skills for something yellow later on when you get access to those implants for the surgery table. And thanks to all the breeding you've done, you should be able to condense those pals. And don't forget to use pal souls to improve your pals too. Here's the list of the abilities for combat, riding, and base work. By the way, work speed does affect farm pals, making them produce quicker, and the ranch master and farm hand are generally not advised because your pals cannot exceed level 10 in farming, which you'll get from books and condensing. You also don't need to make your base pals perfect unless you are suffering from raids, in which case I advise you build your base on an island to avoid getting raided, as most resources in the game can be farmed anywhere. Don't get caught up in trying to give your pals only the perfect abilities, because you won't be able to just yet. As you can see, the legend trait is locked behind legendary pals, and these traits are locked behind the world tree, which you can't get to until you reach level 70. Around level 50, with a couple fire pals, you should be able to take down Frostallion. And if you need to level up pals before you go, just take your strongest pal and fight the strongest enemy it can take on, and your other pals in the party will immediately jump up dozens of levels. You also might have seen Yakumo and its ability to pass down the skills it has to pals you catch, but I have not found it to be very useful. So that's what I did. And here's how I got my perfect hundos. First, I was catching everything as I was leveling up, all the time, often without hitting pals at all, just throwing spheres at them. By the time I got the glasses, I had a selection of pals with a few individual 100 stats, but I couldn't make one without any abilities at all, so instead of creating a perfect pal without any abilities, I instead focused on a pal that had just 100 stat and bred that with a passive skill that I liked, Demon God in this case, and got myself this Tarantrus. From there, I kept adding passives and finding pals with a matching 100 stat. I did not stop breeding the same pals until the children had better passives and IVs. It took some time to breed them out, but it was worth it, because when you get those perfect pals, you can breed them into anything, and most things that you breed will have 1, 2, or 3 100% stats, so you'll be swimming in them. In the process, I got a bunch of other random rainbow skills. For example, I got one Sloat with remarkable craftsmanship, which I then bred out into a separate pal. I bred this 100% Petalia with Yormuntide that only had legend, but unfortunately couldn't get a 100% Verdash with all 4 passives, but I did get a 100% with just legend, which helped me make perfect Shroomer Noct with the passives I wanted, and then make a bunch of new pals from that. I also bred Petalia with Bushi to get Petalia Ignis, and Petalia Ignis allows you to create a lot of endgame pals. For example, pair it with Bralocha, Grisbold, or Solmoral Lux and get Lumen, then pair Lumen with Petalia Ignis to get Frostbloom, and pair Lumen with Grisbold again to make Venusa, and with Liline to make this endgame guy. Then use him with Petalia Ignis to get yourself Alaska, and so on and so on. And the great thing is that you only have to do this once, as you can always use Global Palbox and move your pals across servers. Speaking of servers, if you'd like to rent a dedicated server for Palworld, look no further, because I have a 10% coupon for G-Portal that does not expire once you claim it, so there's no downside to registering now with my link in the description. Let me know if this video has been helpful and subscribe for more game guides. Thank you.